Hi everyone, I'm just gonna get everything set up. Sorry, it kind of restarted. Okay. Okay, cool. Hopefully that's all set up. I feel like every live starts like this. Hope the sound works. Hope it's actually delivering to you guys. I think by now I should trust the system, but technology is like never my strong point. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds, minutes, see if anyone still wants to join live. And give me a shout if you are watching. I can't see who's actually watching, so it's always awesome if you guys kind of comment like I'm here. And if you're watching the replay, just hashtag replay, say hi. And yeah, like all the rest of the lives, these are interactive, they are informal, so you can just kind of comment things that you're thinking or comments that you have, experiences from your own life, things that resonate with you that I'm talking about, or questions. Okay, cool. So we're going to be talking about nutrition today. And this can be quite a, what do we say, contentious topic, a topic that has very strong feelings in so many directions. And I'm not even going to go into that. So I generally, with my clients, I don't have like, you have to be following this diet protocol, or you have to be eating this way, or you, like it doesn't have to have a name, right? It doesn't have to be like Mediterranean or keto or vegan or whatever it is. That being said, if you are someone who has something that you know works for you, or let's say in terms of certain principles, you don't want to eat meat or whatever it is, whatever your reasons are, that is perfectly okay. And I would never, kind of mess with that, right? And we don't need to be doing that for each other either. So if someone on here chooses to eat a certain way and the other person doesn't agree with that, this is not really the space to debate that kind of stuff, right? We're here to support each other. And yeah, I just find that this topic can get a little bit like a religious discussion sometimes, and I really don't think it has to be. Like, nutrition can just be neutral. It can be a tool for getting you where you want to go. And that's where I want to start today, is just kind of similar to what I was talking about with physical activity, is we don't want to be saying this is like the ultimate way of eating and we should all be trying to get there. It's like, where am I? What do I need? Especially if you're in the space of, feeling burnt out and overwhelmed, stressed out, what do you need in this place where you are in your life? What do you need from nutrition? How can it work for you, essentially, right? So before we get started on kind of some of the things that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to have a little bit of time for reflection when it comes to nutrition. So if you have like a paper or pen, or just on your phone or on the computer, whatever it is, I'm going to just give you a few minutes to write down what are all your rules about food. So if you had to like give someone a little rule book or a guidebook of like, this is what I am allowed to eat, mustn't eat, shouldn't eat. These are good foods for me, these are bad foods for me, whatever it is. So what are your shoulds and have to's, your little like rule book when it comes to nutrition? And just write down a few of those. I'm just going to give you a few minutes. And it can also just be about nutrition itself. Like, what are your beliefs about what nutrition should be like for people or for yourself? So just brainstorming that a little bit. And you're welcome to share any of those in the comments. Can be things like, I believe people should, never eat sugar, or never eat processed foods, or I believe that I am not allowed to, or let me say, one of the rules for me is I'm not allowed to snack during the day, or it's not a rule for me, just I snack a lot. But these are just more examples. So, like, for example, I mustn't snack during the day, I must eat breakfast by a certain time, I must never skip a meal, I must not eat after a certain time, whatever it is. So just in case that helps with some examples of what rules and shoulds and have tos might be. Okay, cool. So hopefully you've got a few down there. You can always go and think about this more later. But I want to just introduce the idea, and I kind of alluded to this before we did this exercise, but this idea that how nutrition helps you or harms you has a lot to do with how you think about it and how you use it. So again, going back to this idea that it's a tool and you can use it in the way that helps you. So thinking about what do I believe that I have to do and should do, and all of that with food. And if those rules are helpful to you, like if they really help you to feel better, to feel energized, to feel like you have enough, to feel just generally good. Like, let's say you have certain symptoms that tend to pop up, and eating a certain way is very helpful for you to not feel like that. Or let's say, like, I want to use an example where it can go both ways, right? So, for example, one person can be cutting out alcohol, right? And it can be from a very nourishing place. Like, this is what I need. This is how I feel my best. And I'm going to work through all the things of like, maybe people judge me when I don't want to drink, or maybe people, comments about it, or think I'm not fun, or whatever it is, right? And then another person could be doing the exact same action, cutting out alcohol, but from a place of like, I have to do this. I shouldn't drink alcohol. It's bad for me. It's generally like a bad thing to do. So those kinds of things, right? Like, there are different reasons that we can do the exact same action. And those reasons have a lot to do with how that change affects us. So for the one person who is really nourishing to cut out alcohol, it actually can have a different effect on her physiologically than the person who is cutting out alcohol because of, judgment or criticism or whatever it is. And part of the reason for that is because we're looking at it from a deep health perspective. So remembering, you can go back and watch the live on deep health for a little bit more information on this if you missed that. But thinking of health from a deep perspective. So we're looking at mental health, we're looking at physical health, we're looking at emotional health, environmental health, relational health. we're looking at all those factors to determine whether or not something is healthy. So there are very few things that are just healthy, right? Whether or not something's healthy depends on a variety of those factors. And so that's why someone who is, it's like nourishing to them mentally and emotionally to cut out alcohol is different to someone who is mentally and emotionally stressful to cut out alcohol. And in the same way, nutrition in general can be a source of like a stressor. It can be something that just adds more to your plate. When you're already busy and overwhelmed, it can be something that is mentally or emotionally stressful to you. So it can be a stressor. It can be something that demands resources of you for physiological and psychological reasons. And it can be a nourishing thing where it's actually adding to your resources, adding to what you have in the tank or the metaphorical cup that you have, right? So we want to think about like, what is the actual use of nutrition for you where you are now? Like if you were using it as a tool to get somewhere, where's that place that you're wanting to go? And I think for a lot of people in this group, it is things like feeling more energized, feeling less stressed out, feeling less burnt out, exhausted, tired, feeling less overwhelmed, considering the fact that you are busy or you're working full time, or you maybe have work and home life and your relationships or whatever it is, like you are probably busy, you're probably overwhelmed, or exhausted, all those kinds of things. So we want to say that nutrition is a tool to help you move from that space to feeling energized and engaged and lit up and excited to go to work and excited to be with your family and excited to be with your partner. Whatever it is, you want to look at, what is this nutrition as a tool getting me to where? Where's that place that I want to go? And how can I then design this nutrition as a tool to be the best thing for me in this place and to get me there in the best way, right? So differentiating it from nutrition for longevity, nutrition for a performance goal, athletic goal, something like that. Your goal is different. Your goal is to have more energy and better mood and better experience of various aspects of your life. And how can nutrition help you get there, right? So another way to think about this is we want to eat for fuel, so to have energy, and we want to eat for pleasure and connection, right? And this is part of like a bigger view of just nutrition and what we eat, right? We're not only eating to be able to have fuel. So some people will just look at nutrition from like a nutritional content perspective and fuel, right? And that is one way to look at it. But that is not the only thing that food has to be about, right? It can be for fuel. It can make you feel good in your own body. It can make you feel fit and strong, and it can make you feel energized. It can make you feel like you want to get up. It can have you like feeling better. Like I said, there's certain symptoms and certain foods make you feel better, all that kind of stuff. So it can be a fuel and make you feel energized. It can be used for pleasure or mood, right? So sometimes we eat things that we just genuinely enjoy, and it doesn't have to be about whether or not it's going to like provide us with energy, or whether or not it's like that is the most nutritious thing I could have eaten, whatever it is. Sometimes we are eating for pleasure. And food is very much a something that we use as humans to connect with each other as well. So sometimes you're going on a date, or you're going to lunch with a friend, or you are, you know, hosting a meal at your house, and food is about connection as well. And that's not to say that if you want to eat a certain way, that when you're with your friends, that you now suddenly just have to let go of that. That's not the point. The point is more that we want to be starting to widen widen or deepen our view of nutrition and our view of health as well. And then this becomes so much bigger, right? And there becomes much more opportunity, and it becomes much more exciting and fun, and yeah, a source of joy and well-being, instead of this like restrictive thing that we get anxious about, we get perfectionistic wow, perfectionistic about. Sure. Okay. Just trying to see what else I wanted to say about that. So when can nutrition be a stressor, right? It can be, let's say we're not getting enough, or we're not hydrating enough, or we have a lack of certain nutrients, or we're not, let's say, eating enough for our demands. So let's say we're upping our athletic challenge, and we're not matching our food to match that. We're not increasing our food to match that, right? And think about also like when you are at work, some of us are physically active, most of us are mentally very active. There are demands on you in terms of resources, and are you fueling for that? Are you making sure that you have enough energy for that? And then one of the things that I often see as well when it comes to our beliefs around food and nutrition as clinicians is that sometimes there's a bit of, sometimes it's like kind of an imposter syndrome, or a certain kind of pressure that comes with how we advise patients. So what I mean by that is I was coaching a clinician who is very much into using nutritional protocols with her patients. And she was saying to me that she feels guilty because she advises her patients to completely cut out sugar, but she hasn't completely done it yet. She's like 70% of the way there, but she like hasn't cut it out completely. And she was feeling so, yeah, like almost an imposter, guilty that she's not kind of being an example to her patients. And I asked her what patients she's normally using these kinds of protocols on. And it was migraine and other headache patients and like chronic pain. And I said, but are you struggling with either of those things, like headaches or chronic pain, or like, is that also a struggle for you? And she was like, no, it's not a struggle for me. And the point was just that sometimes when you are, well, let me say, when you are advising things to patients, get really clear on, is that something that I am advising as a general thing, as in like, I believe that everyone should be doing this, then yes, you should also be doing that. Or is it something that's specific for their condition? Similarly, if I was helping someone with acute back pain, I'm not going to advise them in terms of physical activity based on what I do to stay healthy or for longevity or performance for my trail running. That just wouldn't be appropriate. So just making sure that it is actually appropriate for the situation, and that you actually should be doing that as well. Like, is it appropriate for you to be doing that as well? And then if that is something that you maybe tell all your patients, right? Like, I believe everyone should never eat any sugar, right? And I tell all my patients that, and then I feel guilty because I'm not doing that as well. It can be it can be like a trigger, or let's say catalyst, for you to start really noticing, like, where do you struggle with behavior change? And where might your patients also be struggling with those same things? Is it a bit all or nothing? Is it something that maybe people are lacking the tools to do, and you are also lacking the tools to do? Maybe you think you just willpower your way through behavior change, and that's why you're struggling, and probably that's why a lot of patients are struggling with that as well. So it can be a catalyst to start thinking further about behavior change, or just noticing that, oh, it's not necessarily that I need to be following the exact same protocol as my patients, because I'm not struggling with the things that my patients are struggling with. So just being aware of that area where you might have certain beliefs around that in seeing patients. One of the things that I really find helpful, we'll get into more specific action things now, but one of the ideas that I find really helpful is to think of your big levers. So you are doing the big action tasks, or the big, let me say rather, the big impact things, right? So you are making sure that, let's call it a percentage of like 70%, right? You are, it could even be 60, it could even be 50, but let's say 70%, right? Let's say you are 70% of the way there. Like 70% of the time you are eating the way that you'd like to be eating. 70% of the time you are exercising in the way that you want to be exercising. That getting kind of used to the fact that that is what is going to bring you the most results. So like that initial like big lever, big impact thing, those like foundational behaviors that get you most of the way there. So the very simple things get you about 70% of the way there. When we are talking about little things, like especially when a diet has a name, or when you are talking about, usually when people are saying like you should eat this, not that, or you should add this, whatever, it's usually small tweaks. And I wouldn't even say it's like the 30%. I would say that it's even smaller. Those a lot of the nutritional advice that we're getting is like that last little percentage that we're trying to tweak, and that might make a little difference for some people. So we want to focus on the big stuff and let the rest be okay, and let the rest be good enough, because we have other things in our lives to be focusing on. We have other things in our lives that are really, really important to us. And sometimes we have to realize, where are we making those really small tweaks, those changes that are actually not getting us very far or making a huge difference in our lives, and where are we focusing on that without really having a good reason for doing that, other than we feel like we should, or we have to, or that's the good thing to do, right? So just getting clear on that. And then another concept that I find really helpful is the concept, particularly when it comes to nutrition, the concept of crowding out. So instead of worrying about the chips that you eat, I wonder why that comes to mind first. I have no experience in eating. Let's say instead of worrying about chips that you eat, or chocolate, or like alcohol, or whatever it is that you perceive to be like the bad thing in your diet, instead of worrying about how can I eliminate those things, or stop myself from doing those things, or like have really strict rules around that, how can I rather think of crowding out, in the sense that I eat, I'm eating the majority of my diet as, whole foods, a variety of foods, minimally processed. I'm making sure that I'm getting protein and carbs and fat in the general percentage that it's recommended. Like I'm doing those big lever activities that we're talking about. And that is crowding out most of the stuff that is going to be quote unquote bad, right? So I don't actually need to worry about that stuff, because I'm crowding it out by doing, the majority of the time, I'm doing things that are helpful and nourishing to my body and my brain and whatever. And then if there are things that I would probably ideally want to change or get rid of or whatever, those end up being such a small percentage that it really is negligible for what you're trying to achieve. So think of more like adding the good stuff and letting that crowd out the bad, rather than trying to be all rigid and trying to eliminate and trying to stop doing certain things. It just is also much more pleasurable to do it that way, to be honest. So yeah, those concepts might be helpful for you in your nutrition. When we are talking about getting more specific, so I'm going to post as a comment on this live, I'm just going to post a link. I think I posted it before, but it's just helpful to have it with the live that is on this topic. So it's just a link that you can go and follow, that you insert all your details, and it's free. And you basically give like your age, I think your activity level, what your goal is. Like, are you just trying to improve health? Are you trying to, or do you have a performance goal, whatever it is, and what your eating preferences are. So I will eat anything, or I will only eat these things, or whatever it is. You can put those preferences in. So it takes out like most of the work, right? But the main area that we're actually wanting, or the main area that's important for change, is really the action and the behavior change. So I was like thinking about this analogy of like when you are in school and you hear that in the higher grades that you can use a calculator, and you're like, that's so easy, like math must be so easy in those grades. And then you get there and you realize like, okay, that is, the easiest part is like the stuff that you get to use the calculator for. So it's a similar thing, right? This will give you everything. It'll give you what you need protein-wise, fat, carbs, all that kind of stuff. It'll tailor it to your needs. But then using that and saying like, where do I actually need change? And maybe doing this calculation is not even helpful for you right now. Maybe that's just not even where you are at right now. And that's totally okay. Like if that's going to overwhelm you and just feel like, oh my gosh. One of the things we often start with is tracking our food. Have you guys ever tried tracking your food? It is so hard. And we think of it as like this easy thing, right? With patients as well, which is like, just track your headaches, or just track your physical activity, or just track your eating. And it sounds so easy, but it's not. Tracking your food is a skill. Think about how many different things have to be in place for someone to remember to track it, to have the tools to track it, to know what to track, to know how to describe what they're tracking, etc. So just as like a permission slip, like if that's too much for you right now, that is not like the baby step that you can take. And if that's overwhelming, that is totally okay. I'm just going to post it so that you have that option if you are curious. And what I love about the way that they do it is a couple of things. But the first one is they use hand portions instead of like calorie counting or weighing your food. Those are options, but you can just use your hands, which is really cool because, sorry, I have blisters from rowing. It's like, what is that hand? So you obviously take your hands everywhere. They are relatively proportional to your size. So, and it's just really easy. And sometimes you may use that, sometimes not, but I just find it way easier. So there's like palms of protein, thumbs of fat, and just gives you like a general, and you can just have a look at it and just get a general sense. Like maybe you don't specifically go and like track everything you're eating now and compare it to that. Maybe you do that later. But maybe you just look at it just for anything that jumps out at you, like, oh, I'm really not getting enough of that, or this is like a huge area, or I'm doing really well at this, like, I'm really getting enough of that, whatever it is, right? The other thing that I really enjoy is they'll give you like examples, not only of foods that go in the different categories, and they have like, so instead of thinking of like good and bad food, they categorize it as like, try and eat as little as you can of these foods, try and eat a little bit less of these foods, and try and eat more of these foods. So you're never trying to like completely eliminate or only eat these things, but you're just having like a spectrum of like more or less of something. And there are different foods that fit into those different categories in each category of like fat, nutrition, carbs, etc. And they also give you a few meal ideas based on what you filled in. So it's really awesome. It's really helpful. And I find, it's just an easy way to do things. And then getting clear on like, what is the actual action that I'm struggling with, and what do I need more support on? So I did a poll in the group, and the main thing was not enough time for cooking and meal prep. The second was emotional or stress eating. And the third highest was skipping meals when busy. So I just want to make the first point that no one answered, I don't know what to eat. And that's not to say that you don't know exactly what to eat, or maybe, knowing what to eat can help in certain ways. But for most of us, that's not the biggest problem. Like, we have a general sense of what we need. There are more other things. So that's why I say, like, the calculator can be super helpful for ideas and like knowing what you need, but that is usually not where we're struggling the most. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about those things. I don't want to go too much longer though. I tend to carry on for a bit longer than I plan to. Hashtag time management live that I did. So anyway, so let's think about, like, if those are the actual things that you're struggling with, not enough energy or time for cooking or meal prep, right? Like, where is the actionable behavior that is going to help you the most? And why are you not doing that already? Because that's the biggest thing, right? Most of us don't know. Most of us, like, if you ask someone, like, how can I have more time or energy for cooking and meal prep? Most of us can come up with like a few tips and tricks, right? Like, it's not that hard. But the behavior change is what's hard, or the behavior, the action part of it is what's hard. So just being aware of that, like, you're not crazy or lazy or something wrong with you if you're like, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it. That is like the whole magic of behavior change. But let's think about different things, like, what are like the tips and tricks, right? Where can you like outsource or ask for help with something? Where can you set aside a certain time on the weekends to do certain things? Where can you like spread that out so that you're not having to do all your meal prep on one day, whatever it is, right? But then once you have those like tips and tricks, it's thinking about like, what is it that gets in the way of that? What is either the resistance or the perceived obstacle? Or, for example, I might have certain feelings about asking for help. I might have certain feelings about paying someone to do something, right? So like, we have certain thoughts and beliefs around these things as well. And that's where like we really want to be digging into, and rather than just kind of, oh, I must just do it. And then things like emotional stress eating, that was one that I chose. But again, so if I was stressed at the end of the day and I grabbed my Lay's, which is what I always grab after a long day, if I'm feeling like overwhelmed or stressed out, right? And you had to tell me like, okay, this is the nutritional profile of Lay's. This is what this is how you can, stop your cravings for Lay's, whatever. This is why you shouldn't be eating Lay's, whatever. Like, that's not addressing the actual problem, right? The actual, like, the Lay's is just how it manifests in my life. Right? This is like the tool I use to de-stress. So the actual underlying thing is to address the emotional or the stress component to it, or the emotional, like if I'm in a low space and I want to binge eat chips, right? I'm not struggling with the concept that chips are like not helpful for that. It's not like what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with whatever it is that's going on, right? So getting really clear on what is actually going on. I use that example of being hangry, and just think about it. Like, if you are so hungry that you are like easily pissed off, you are annoyed, you are frustrated, like, what you don't need is someone teaching you how to like emotionally regulate. Like, you just need food, right? So just being like clear on like, what is actually the thing that we we're trying to get clear on and we're trying to actually solve for. And then things like skipping meals on busy work days. So what exactly, again, getting more specific, what exactly is getting in the way of that? Is it like a boundary issue? Is it an expectation with your, let's say you have an employer, or let's say the belief that what you want is not as important as being there for others, whatever it is. And, you know, obviously like once or twice, that's, or like every now and then, that's fine. That happens in the role that we play. But if it's consistently happening that you're never getting to lunch because you are doing other things, or you are being of service, or you are running overtime, or let's actually address it. What is that thing that's getting in the way of, if it's like a consistent thing that's happening, what is really going on behind that, kind of like the other examples. And with all of these things, like where can you, for example, that skipping meals on busy work days, can you invest in a couple of really easy snacks that you can just keep at work? For example, like, right, we're getting again to like tips and tricks, and they may or may not be helpful for you because it may or may not be the reason why you are struggling. But what I wanted to say is this group can be a point of support, whether that's accountability that you need. Maybe you need recipes, like maybe we can share, and we can use this live as like a thread. Let's share recipes with each other. Like, this is the way that I make really simple this and that, right? And again, realizing some people are going to find it helpful, some not. For some people, it's where they're at. For some people, it's really what they're struggling with. For other people, not. So let's share some easy recipes with each other. One of the other things that we can do on this group is having like a co-working. If you guys have ever done that, it's like you're basically just working at the same time, and it helps. It's like called body doubling, where it just helps that it just helps you get going and to stay focused and to do things. So for example, if we're like on a certain day, we said like, this is our co-working time, and in that time you can do the things that maybe you've been procrastinating on, whether that's preparing your meals for the week, or, you know, writing reports, whatever it is. But meal prep can fall into that. I think there was another idea that I had, but anyway, just in general, accountability, support, ideas, tips and tricks, like this can be a source of that. And if you are wanting to have a bit more support on this, like specifically for you, and kind of like we talked about, like getting specific on what exactly is getting in the way for you, and what is going to be the most helpful action step for you in your situation where you're at. If you want more help with that, go and book a mini coaching session. The link is always in the group description. It can be used for anything at any time, but I will link it to this live as well, so that it's easy to find. And I think that is it. Let me know what you guys find and what you've brainstormed on, and where I can help. And have a great Sunday. Cheers.